They called her a monster. Her name was never spoken. People only whispered about her in fear. Entire planets shut down when her ship appeared. Lights went out. Weapons were armed. No one waited to ask questions. No one tried to understand her. They only wanted to survive. She was tall, with sharp, glowing eyes and silver skin that reflected the stars. Her claws could cut through steel. Her voice was like thunder in an empty cave. Every time she came, something was left broken. A ship, a city, a heart. To the galaxy she was death. But she never stayed in one place. She never spoke. She never harmed without reason. And sometimes, she disappeared just before the real danger struck. Some survivors said she had saved them. But no one believed those stories. Fear was louder than truth. Then came him, a human named Elias. He was not a soldier, not a leader, just a deep space researcher who liked silence more than people. He had heard the stories too. But when he saw her for the first time, he didn't feel fear. He felt curiosity. It happened on the edge of a broken moon. A rescue ship had crashed. Fire spread. People were screaming. And then, she appeared. Elias watched from his shuttle above. Everyone below ran, crying out, "She's here! The monster's here!" But the monster didn't attack. She walked slowly through the fire. She lifted a heavy beam trapping a child. She moved with strange care, gentle, not wild. She looked at the child for a moment. Then she vanished into the smoke. The child survived. And no one believed what she said, that the monster had saved her. But Elias saw it with his own eyes. And for the first time, someone asked the question, "What if we're wrong?" He started following her trail, looking at old records, flight logs, survivor stories. Every time it was the same: destruction, fear, but no proof that she started it. Was she chasing something? Running from something? Protecting someone? He didn't know. But he wanted to find out. And so, one night, alone in the dark of deep space, he sent out a message on an open signal. Just 3 words. "I see you." For hours there was silence. Then, a soft reply came through the static. "Then why don't you run?" Elias smiled. "Because monsters don't ask questions like that." Elias couldn't sleep that night. Her message echoed in his mind. "Then why don't you run?" He didn't have an answer. Maybe because he had seen something in her eyes. Not anger, not hatred, but sadness. And something else. Something like loneliness. He replayed the footage again and again. Her walking through the fire. Her lifting the child. Her pausing, just for a moment, as if she cared. That pause said more than any words. She wasn't just a weapon. She was aware. The next day, Elias began searching the communication channels where sightings of her had been reported. He listened to old emergency calls, distress beacons, and security logs. That's when he noticed something strange. In every place she appeared, there was a signal. Not just noise. It was a whisper, low and broken, like someone calling for help, buried deep in the static. No one had noticed it before, but Elias heard it. And it was always the same voice, hers. It didn't sound like a monster. Sounded afraid. Was she trying to speak? Trying to warn people? He followed the signal trail across abandoned moons, ruined ships, and lost colonies. The deeper he went, the more he saw the same pattern. She appeared after something had already gone wrong. Explosions, malfunctions, attacks. She didn't cause the chaos. She arrived in the middle of it. And sometimes, she stopped it. But still, people feared her. One night, floating alone near a dead station, Elias received another message. No name, no location, just 6 words. "You're not like the others, human." He froze. His hands trembled. She was watching him. Elias replied, "Neither are you." A pause. Then she answered, "I was made, not born." And with that, the signal ended. His heart beat faster. What did she mean? Made by who? For what? And why was she alone? He had so many questions. But one thing was clear now: she was trying to communicate. She had thoughts, emotions, and maybe pain. Elias decided he had to meet her. Not through screens. Not through signals. Face to face. He tracked the last place the signal came from. An old, dark station near the edge of known space. No one lived there anymore. It was quiet, broken, but he felt she would return. So he waited, and as the stars spun silently around him, a shadow passed over his ship. The lights flickered, the systems froze, and then she was there, standing just outside the airlock. Tall, still, eyes glowing like distant suns. Elias stepped forward, and for the first time, the galaxy's most feared creature did not raise her claws. She simply asked, "Why are you not afraid?" Elias looked at her and said, "Because I see the person, not the fear." The air inside the broken station was cold and dry. Walls were cracked. Lights flickered. Felt like a graveyard floating in space. Elias stepped inside, each footstep echoing through the silence. Behind him, the door sealed shut. And there she stood, the one they all feared. She didn't move, just watched. Her body was covered in metallic plates, scratched and burned from battles long forgotten. Her eyes were still glowing, but not with anger. They looked tired. Elias didn't speak right away. Neither did she. Then, softly, he said, "I'm not here to fight." She tilted her head. "Then why are you here, human?" "I want to understand you," he said. "The galaxy thinks you're a monster, but I've seen the truth." For a moment, there was only silence. Then she spoke. "I was made in a lab, engineered to end wars. I wasn't given a name, just a number. They taught me to kill, to destroy. That was my only purpose." She turned away from him. "But I broke the programming. I began asking questions. Why am I alive? Why do I dream? Why do I feel pain when I see others suffer?" Elias listened closely. Her voice was low, like a storm trying not to break. "They feared me after that," she continued. "Not for what I could do, but for what I had become. A weapon that thought. They tried to shut me down, lock me away. So I ran." Elias slowly stepped closer. "All this time you weren't hunting them. You were just trying to be free." She looked at him. Her eyes shimmered. "Freedom is expensive. Every time I defended myself, more fear grew. They told stories, called me a monster, and eventually, I started to believe them." Elias took a deep breath, then held out his hand. "I don't believe them," he said. She looked at his hand. Her claws twitched slightly. No one had ever reached out to her before. Not without fear. Not without a weapon in their other hand. Slowly, carefully, she raised her arm. For a second, she hesitated. Then her hand touched his. There was no pain, no fire, just the quiet touch of two beings who didn't belong anywhere, but had finally found someone who understood. "I don't have a name," she whispered. "Then I'll give you one," Elias replied. But before he could speak, alarms blared through the station. Red lights flashed. A deep voice came from overhead. "Target confirmed. Eliminate immediately." She pulled back. "They found me." Elias looked at her, calm but firm. "Then we fight together." She stared at him, almost surprised. "No one has ever stood beside me." He smiled. "They should have." Outside the station, ships were approaching, dark, fast, and ready to kill. Inside, for the first time in her life, she wasn't alone. The ships circled the station like wolves, engines silent, weapons armed. Their lights cut through the dark like blades. Inside, Elias and the woman, the one once called a monster, stood side by side. "Who are they?" Elias asked. She looked out the cracked window, her voice hollow. "They are the ones who made me. Scientists, soldiers, now hunters. They call themselves the Purity Council. They believe anything unnatural should be erased. Even if it thinks, even if it feels." She gave a bitter smile. "Especially then." The station shook. A voice came over the speakers. "Surrender the subject, or die with her." Elias clenched his fists. "What do they want?" "She's not a person to them." A second voice interrupted hers. calm and cold. Just a broken tool that refuses to stay in the box. Elias turned to her. We need to get out. There's no time, she said. But maybe there's something you should see first. She led him to a sealed room deep within the station. The door opened with a hiss, revealing a hidden lab, dusty, damaged, but still running. Holograms lit the air. And there, in the center, was her origin. Videos of her creation. Test logs. Reports. She was built on Earth years ago by a secret human project. A living weapon grown, not born. Her mind was copied from a human brain, but twisted, trained, and forced to obey. But she broke free. She was never supposed to feel anything, Elias whispered. But I did, she replied. And they couldn't allow that. He watched a final log entry. Subject 7 has shown signs of empathy. Orders are to shut her down permanently. She is no longer safe. The room shook again. The station was under attack. She looked at Elias. I can stop them, but I'll need to face them. Alone. No, he said. Not anymore. They raced back to the control room. Outside, ships fired warning shots. The voice returned. Final warning. Power down and surrender. She stepped forward, opening the comms. I'm not your tool, she said clearly. I'm not your monster. I'm me. And I won't run anymore. Then she powered up the station's defenses. Energy flowed through her arms as she connected with the old systems. Lights blazed. Cannons hummed. For the first time in years, she was fighting not to destroy but to defend. Elias took the pilot seat beside her. Let's give them a reason to fear the right thing, he said. As the enemy fired their first missile, she smiled. Then let them meet the real me. The battle had begun not just for survival, but for the truth. The battle didn't last long. She didn't destroy the ships, she disabled them. Her attacks were fast, precise. No deaths, only silence. Elias watched as she moved like light and shadow, controlling the station's systems, blocking enemy signals, stopping missiles mid-air. It was not rage. It was control. She didn't want war. She wanted them to stop chasing her. When the last ship drifted powerless in space, the voice returned. Weaker now. Afraid. What are you? She answered without anger. Something you were too afraid to understand. The signal ended. But Elias knew this wasn't over. Later, inside the station, she sat alone near a cracked screen, her face half lit by the stars outside. Elias sat beside her, holding a small data chip he'd pulled from the lab's records. I found something, he said quietly. The chip held old files, hidden ones. Elias had unlocked them using her own neural code. What they found was worse than they imagined. She wasn't the only one. There were others' experiments, failed ones. Some were destroyed. Some were locked away. She was Subject 7, the only one who escaped. They lied to the galaxy, Elias whispered. Told them you were an alien threat. But you were human-made, a child of Earth. She nodded slowly. I always hoped I came from somewhere else, somewhere better. But I was just born in a lab, created to kill, thrown away when I didn't. Elias looked at her with quiet strength. That doesn't define you. She turned to him. Then what does? He held up the chip. Truth. They made a plan. Elias would broadcast the files to every open-channel news networks, science stations, independent colonies. Show the world what she really was. What the council had done. The lies. The cruelty. The fear. But before he could send the message, Earth responded. Not with questions. Not with shame. With orders. Subject 7 is a Class Omega threat. Any person assisting her is now marked as a traitor. Bounty activated. Orders. Terminate on sight. Elias stared at the message. They want to erase you. And now me too. She looked calm. I can run. You don't have to follow. He laughed bitterly. It's too late. I already did. There was a pause. Then she said something he didn't expect. Thank you. 2 words. Soft. Honest. Like a child who had never been thanked. Never been seen. Never been safe. Elias uploaded the files. The truth was now flying across the stars. Some would believe, some wouldn't, but silence was broken. "They'll come faster now," she said. "Let them," Elias replied. Outside the station, a new fleet began to form. But this time, the galaxy had heard her voice, and that changed everything. The truth was out. Across the stars, screens lit up with her story. The files Elias released spread faster than anyone expected. People watched the old test videos, read the lab reports, saw the truth. She was not an alien threat. She was a creation born from human hands. And fear. Some were shocked, some angry, some still didn't believe. But one thing had changed. For the first time, the galaxy saw her face. And not everyone saw a monster. On the other side of space, Earth reacted fast. Military fleets gathered. Messages were sent to every colony. Subject 7 is dangerous. Anyone who helps her will be punished. The truth is fake. Do not trust the traitor human. They tried to bury it again. But the story was alive now. People started asking questions. Elias and the woman, the one who still had no name, stayed on the old station watching everything unfold. She sat near the window, staring at the stars. "Some believe me," she said. "More will," Elias replied. She nodded, but her eyes were distant. "They'll come for us soon." "I know. And they'll come with more fire than before." He looked at her. "Then we leave. We find another place. Somewhere safe." She shook her head. "There's nowhere safe if I keep running. If I vanish, they'll twist the story again. Say it was a lie. That I never existed." Elias was silent. She stood slowly, her voice calm but heavy. "I have to face them." "You don't have to do it alone," Elias said. A quiet smile touched her lips. "You already gave me more than anyone ever did. You gave me a choice." She looked down at her hands. Claws that once tore ships apart. Now they trembled slightly. "I don't want to destroy. I never did. But if I must stand in front of their fire to prove I'm not the monster, then I will." Elias reached into his coat and handed her a small chip, a backup of everything they'd gathered. "If you don't come back," he said, "someone has to carry your story." She looked at him. "I want you to live," she whispered. "I want you to be free," he replied. Later, as dawn broke across a distant planet's sky, she left the station. Alone, she flew straight toward the Earth fleet, toward the guns, the missiles, the fear, not to fight, but to show them who she really was. Elias watched from the station, his heart heavy. On the screen, her voice came through one last time. "You built me to be a weapon, but I chose to be more." And then, silence. No explosions. Just the quiet hum of the stars, waiting. The galaxy waited. The Earth fleet had surrounded her ship. Every cannon pointed at her. Every finger on a trigger. She didn't move. She didn't fire. She simply sent one final message to every screen, every station, every voice that had ever feared her. "I was created by fear, but I chose something else." And then, she powered down her weapons. She opened her ship, and she stepped out. No armor, no attack, just her. She faced the fleet, alone, and raised her hands. The soldiers inside their ships waited for the order. But the order never came, because something was different now. Across the galaxy, people were protesting, speaking, sharing her story. Scientists came forward, former workers. One of the lead researchers, an old man with shaking hands, made a public confession. "We made her, and when she began to feel, we called her a danger. But it was us. We were the danger." The fleet still waited. Then one ship backed away. Then another. Then another. No shots were fired. And just like that, the war ended before it began. Elias watched it all from the station, his eyes filled with tears. He had feared she might die that day, but she didn't. Instead, she changed everything. Weeks later, she disappeared. No one knew where she went. Some say she returned to the stars. Others believe she watches silently, protecting the edges of space. Elias never saw her again. But one day, when he returned to his ship, he found something. A small sketch drawn by hand. It showed the two of them standing side by side. And under it, 3 words were written in a language only she used. "Thank you, Elias." No one ever found her. But stories began to spread. Not of a monster, not of a weapon, but of a guardian. A shadow who watched from the dark. Who helped ships lost in space. Who warned colonies before disaster struck. Who never asked for thanks, only understanding. And slowly, people forgot to fear her. They remembered her choice. To stand in front of guns, not with hate, but with courage. She had no name, but in time they gave her one. Hope, because sometimes the most feared being in the universe isn't a monster. It's a heart that refuses to turn cold.